everybody. Wanted to do my first film review on a movie that we went to see yesterday that was absolutely hilarious. It's called The Hitman's Bodyguard. Stars Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. So you know it's going to be funny. Both of those guys individually are absolutely hilarious. And just to give you a little backdrop, I used to do film reviews, and I'm kind of nerdy about the cinematography part of it and the audio quality and all that. So I'll only touch briefly on the nerd part of it, the tech stuff, at the end. But Ryan Reynolds has kind of made a full circle because he can do both. He can be very serious in his delivery of jokes and be very kind of stoic, but still funny. And then he can be as just foul mouthed and douchebaggy as you can ever imagine. You know, the Van Wilder. We only know him from Van Wilder. If it wasn't for Van Wilder, nobody would know Ryan Reynolds the way we do now. So we know his comedic chops from that movie. So you don't have to be a stand up to be comedically inclined. And sometimes people forget that. And so I think people were blown away by how funny this movie was. And Samuel L. Jackson, you know he's funny, but he's funny because he uses his verbiage. He somehow makes calling you motherfucker funny, and I don't know how. Nobody really does that, motherfucker. He coined that, and the way he did that years ago. I mean, that was Pulp Fiction, when that started, and maybe even before that. I'm referencing Pulp Fiction, but just his black exploitation way of exchanging dialogue with a co-star is why it's funny. And to get the whitest guy you know and the blackest guy you know in a movie is always funny. You always, we had Lethal Weapon, we had all those 80s and 90s movies where we had this comedic pair of a black guy and a white guy. So this brings that back. So old school heads that love old school comedy are going to love this movie because that's the way it feels. It feels like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, except their personalities are switched over, and so Briggs and Murtaugh are Murtaugh and Briggs. They're two different. They Samuel Jackson is Samuel Jackson. He's raw. He's not nerdy. He's raw. And Ryan Reynolds is cookie cutter FBI agent type of dude, very linear and pragmatic, and he just knows what he wants. And life keeps crashing and burning around him, and the shit that they say to each other is just mind blowing. You'll laugh your head off. I highly recommend this movie. I literally I can't. I give it a 4.9 out of 5 stars, and I would say 4.7 if for the total movie, and I'm about to get into this. 4.7 out of 5, and here's why. The writing, brilliant. The comedy, brilliant. The actors, brilliant. Selma Hayek, holy crap, she's still super hot. Hilarious. Like, she turned out funny. I've never seen her funny. She was funny in this. And the bromance at the end of it is hilarious. But the action is incredible. And that's part 2 to this. The action. Insane. The action is mind-blowingly crazy. And it gets progressively crazier where you start to think that they filmed multiple movies and squeezed them together, and this is why. You have comedy, and so someone wrote the comedy because the comedy is absolutely brilliant. You will die laughing. I haven't laughed that hard in a while. I was knee slapping, hitting Danielle. She's hitting me. We were actually laughing, and that was amazing. The action sequence, it was loud, boomy. The sound was good. The theater that we went to is bleh, but we had tickets that we got a discount on, so and I think that was the problem, was the linearity of the frequency response that we were getting from the speakers, the audio, that setup. I think that's aged. I think that's an older theater, so that theater was maxed out. That sound was, they had to turn it up, and it was loud as hell, and thank God it was. About to get to this. So it really felt like 3 or 4 production crews worked on this movie, because it really felt like the quality of the comedy was so much better then the the photography and the cinematography in certain scenes felt like a completely different crew of amateurs with iPhones filmed that. It was horrible. And I mean, from a standard of like a guy that likes crappy B movie, I've seen better B movie flares. You know, everybody loves the J.J. Abrams, you know, the flare that he stole from Steven Spielberg. And because Steven Spielberg has inspired all cinematographers to kind of have that, you know, you might remember it if you saw E.T., remember that cool flare? It's him. That's, you know, I'm sure Kubrick did it before that, but whatever. Uh, this was nuts. The action was incredible. The dialogue was great. Whoever filmed the scenes where they needed a movie flare, where they needed a lens flare, should be taken out back and shot. It looked like they took Vaseline and just smeared it on the glass. And they said, ah, whatever, we don't care. And I don't know what they were using. If they were using like an A7 with a really good lens on it, uh, I don't know what it was because it was 24 frames a second. It was cinematography. Like it was filmed with something good, but I don't know if the filter they used was from Instagram. It was just screwed up, and it was only in certain scenes. And the only thing I could think of was that it was, or certain camera angles, same scene, certain camera angles. All of a sudden, it's just blurry, and you're questioning your own vision. By the end of the movie, I literally was like, I need to make an appointment at the eye doctor. I need to figure out what's wrong with my eyes because I could not enjoy half that movie. Now I don't know if it was the projector either, but I don't want to blame the projector because it was only visible at certain points in the movie, so it wasn't always a problem. It was only a problem in certain shots where it just became really murky and blurry, and you're like squinting and you're trying to find what they want you to focus on. And rule of thirds, I have no idea what I need to focus on. I'm literally like staring off and I can't find it. And then like in one scene where the camera zooms in and there's like three cops, the zoom would be where my hand is. My left hand was where they want you. This was the only part down here was in focus all the way down here, and it was the shirt of one of the soldiers. Everything else, all of this, was a mess. And from a filmmaker standpoint, that is, for such a good movie, it sucks that they let that slip. That they let whoever decided to take that route with either editing, you know, because it could have been pre-production. I mean, it could have been, or production. It could have been the lens. It could have been a fake lens flare, a filter. I mean, whatever the hell they did to pull that off, they never need to do that again because they ruined that part of the movie. Like, I don't think anyone else would have complained, and you won't complain about this because the movie's so good you'll forget that you're going blind in certain instances. But if you have ocular problems at all, like if you've had LASIK or something, don't question your sanity when you see this movie. Don't think it's your eyes. Your TV is not broken. They did a shit job of adding in lens flare. If they were looking to impress J.J. Abrams, or if they were looking to do something like that, honestly, I can't figure it out. It just looks horrible. And so I can only hope that they never do that again, and whoever was in charge of that crew is pistol whipped, because that was just bad. That's the only thing I could complain about. The lens flare failure. It wasn't flare. They tried, because you can see flare at the very tips, right in the, yeah. Let's get my hands even here. Right there was flare in the very corners. Everything else was just jizz. It was just terrible. It didn't make any sense. So never do that again if you guys ever see this. You won't, whatever. But it was an atrocity to filmmaking, and it sucks because this movie is so good. So don't let what I just said stop you from going to see it, because that has no impact. That's just the tech side of me going nuts when I see such a screw up in such a great movie. If it was a shit movie, I'd say who cares? It adds to the shittery. No, this movie was so good and so funny and just quality. It's rough. Don't bring a kid to this. The dialogue is just, it's, there isn't a 5 second span where a curse word isn't said. So don't bring kids to this, and don't be an idiot and bring a kid and then go, I can't believe my child had to listen to that. Don't do that. It's rated R for a reason. I hope to God it's rated R. Let me double check. It should be. It looks like it is, and I'm just saying, please, don't bring your kids. Don't bitch about it. Don't say, oh, I can't believe it. No, don't bring your kids. This is an adult movie. You're gonna laugh your ass off. It's funny. Again, 4.7 out of 5 stars. 4.7 out of 5. And the three that 3/10 of a point there. The only reason is the cinematography failure. It was hurtful on the eyes. If you feel like one eye is off and whatever, this was an issue. It could be that projector, but I just don't think it, because there were some scenes that did not have that issue. So I can't blame that. I can't logically blame the movie, blame the theater for those scenes. This had to be the movie, and so I recommend it. I really do. I recommend the movie. Go watch it. There's a reason why it's getting good reviews from good film critics and mediocre film critics that just get paid to say good things because that's how they generate traffic on their websites. I don't do that. I'm going to give it to you like it is. If I think it's a shit movie, I'm going to tell you. This movie is awesome. I laughed. I love both of those guys individually. Ryan Reynolds, Samuel Jackson. Ryan Reynolds has had a resurgence. Remember, he did Green Lantern, and everybody hated Green Lantern. That was a... he's made a comeback, and he's had a couple of flops, but the last 6 movies have been really good, and so I can only hope. And Samuel Jackson, he can't really screw up. He's the same guy in everything, and you have to accept that he is the blaxploitation voice that's still allowed in movies. There's not another Samuel L. Jackson. Everybody that tries to pull it off just sounds kind of like they're trying too hard. Like Samuel L. Jackson's not acting. Like that seems to be his persona. It doesn't feel like he's acting anyways. He's it's just so natural, and that's what gives this movie a cool vibe. Is that Samuel L. Jackson is Samuel L. Jackson, and Ryan Reynolds is super OCD and thinks that he had the perfect life and then something happened. And I won't give away any spoilers, but you're in for a hell of a ride. It takes some turns you've never seen, and the comedy, don't miss it. Don't talk through the movie, and that's the next part of this review is movie etiquette. And maybe, you know what, I'm not even going to do that part of this review. I'm going to record a whole different video separately on movie etiquette. When you go to the movies, shut up. And I mean that. Shut up. I've got no fight about this before, and I never want to again, because I just shut up. I paid, if I pay money to come here, and if I'm here and if I'm on a date, I'm whatever. There's a reason I'm doing this here, and I'm bootlegging it at home. I want to see this movie, so shut your face and watch the movie. You can't enjoy it if you're yapping. If you're talking to your friend, like, hey, what happened? You just keep watching, and things will keep occurring. That's how this whole system works. So I'm gonna do a whole video on what happened during this movie. It was quite a 3-dimensional event watching this movie. 2D in front of me and 1D to the right of me. And or should I say B? Anyways, I'm done. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.